Today we're going to talk about the 4 phases of finding a girlfriend or a life partner who's right for you. Whenever you want to achieve a certain outcome, be it in the area of health, wealth or relationships, it's always important to have a clear plan, a structure. The biggest reason why men are not able to find a girlfriend or a life partner is because this whole area of dating and relationships is so fuzzy and gray to them. They don't know what to do or how to go about it. They don't know what the exact steps are that are required in order to find somebody. So the first step is simply starting a conversation. Now that either happens online or in real life. And when it comes to real life interactions, obviously there's a degree of confidence that's required. Now when we work with our clients, there's certain techniques and strategies we teach in order to increase confidence in the moment as well as long term. But one of the most important pieces of advice that I'd like to give you, one little hint, is that if you start a conversation with a woman in real life, then it's important that you don't just ask her questions. Most men simply fall into an interview style mode. They talk to her at the petrol station, in Whole Foods, wherever it may be. And they might walk up to her and say, "Hey, you're really pretty, I like your style." And then they immediately start asking a bunch of questions. So where are you from? What do you do? What's your job? What are you going to do for the rest of the day? And she has no reason to invest in the conversation with you at that stage because she doesn't know you yet. There's not enough emotional buy-in. And if you haven't generated that buy-in, you're not in the position to expect any kind of answers from her. So that's really important. So when you start a conversation, do not just ask questions. It's important that you overshare a little bit, that you share your personality, your plans, your goals, or even just what happened during that day in an authentic and effective manner. The second step is then obviously to have an effective conversation. So one is starting a conversation, and then the second one is having an effective conversation. Now, this is all about effectively as well as authentically sharing who you are. And you have to understand, she is going to get an insight into your personality by the way you communicate verbally as well as non-verbally. The words matter 100%, but so does body language. Eye contact. How close are you standing to her? What are the pauses in which you're communicating with her? There's a lot of things that matter when it comes to the actual conversation in and of itself. One of the most important pieces of advice for the second stage is this idea that you have to find a sweet spot between, on the one hand, being super authentic and raw, because otherwise she'll never be able to connect to the real you, only ever the facade you present. And on the other hand, you still have to be calibrated. Now, it's very important that you understand that whether you talk to her at a petrol station or in a nightclub or in Whole Foods, or I was going to say church, but that's probably not an appropriate place. But the context within which you talk to her determines the type of approach. Now, this is the balance, right? Because if I were to tell you to just walk up to a random lady and say, "Hey, wow, you're super pretty, I'd like to have sex with you," that's probably very honest. But how effective do you think that is? It isn't. But on the other hand, if you pretend to be the nice guy, if you just ask questions, if you change who you are just to please her, just so she's going to like you, you're never going to be able to have a real relationship with her. Because if you want to have a really and a healthy relationship with her, right from the get-go, the first conversation, you have to be who you are. And that is the sweet spot that has to be met between being authentic and raw, and at the same time calibrated as well as relatable. The third step is the date, the perfect date. What we teach our clients is a very simple step-by-step plan on how to have a perfect date, on what to pay attention to. 1 or 2 pointers for you right here. Please do not go for dinner for the first date. A lot of people in society believe that going for dinner is the done thing. That's what you should be doing. Because it's fancy, it shows a lot of investment, it shows that you really care. Well, anything can work. But there's certain probabilities from years of experience of my own, from an unfathomable amount of experience from our clients, I can tell you that going for dinner for the first date is not a great idea. It creates an unnecessary amount of pressure, and pressure prevents connection. That's what Matthew Hussey says, okay? And it's actually true. If you build too much pressure in the beginning, intimacy is much less likely to occur. So just meet her for a coffee, meet her for a drink. And then during the date, you have to be able to establish a man-to-woman connection. Don't friend zone yourself, because that's another thing a lot of men don't understand, is they friend zone themselves. A woman almost never friend zones them. I never get friend zoned ever. I get rejections, plenty of them, no problem. But I never, ever get friend zoned. You put yourself there by the way you communicate. If you communicate in a man-to-woman kind of way, then you will not get friend zoned. It's impossible. You might get a rejection, but you're not going to get friend zoned. So during the date, you have to be aware that on a verbal as well as a non-verbal level, you have to establish intimacy and a man-to-woman connection in a calibrated, gradual, and respectful way. And the last step is then simply to make her your girlfriend. And when I say make her, obviously you don't make her that, but you simply invite her, you date her for a month, 2 or 3, casually, and then you enter a relationship. There's a lot of dynamics that play an important role, especially at the beginning, because a lot of men, when they had the first date and they've been successful, they completely change, okay? So either you try to be the nice guy and you're not getting any dates, you don't even get to the point where you're able to have sex consistently with different women, or not just for in and of itself, because sex is not the end goal in and of itself. It's simply the entry point for a relationship, okay? But you have to be able to get to that point, because if you're not able to get to that point, the relationship is not going to occur. So either they can't even do that, but most men then who can do that, they from that point on, they lose themselves. They go back to the version they were before they learned communication. So it's super important that you keep your frame, as we call it, throughout the relationship. And if you want to learn how you can do that, if you want to learn what exactly in detail is involved in all these stages and how you can find a girlfriend or a life partner who's right for you, then apply for a first free coaching call with a link underneath this video. And we're going to design a step-by-step plan for you based on your individual situation, so that you know exactly what to do in each and every one of those stages. I'm looking forward to speaking with you.